The Sun Belt Spring Tour continues. It's head coach of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, Mike Desormeaux, next on Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back. It's Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. All right, great episode today with the head coach of the Cajuns, Mike Desormeaux. Our spring tour continues. We're getting very close to having almost all of the Sun Belt coaches join us as they are have wrapped up spring ball. Let's talk to Mike Desormeaux about spring practice, what the goals were, what those reached, breaking in a new defensive coordinator. His quarterback got engaged, which is a great story. And it's time to win. It's heading into year 3, and he knows what that means, and he believes he's got the team to do it. Also, I sort of stumbled upon this. He sort of confirmed that the Cajuns went late in spring. That's when they scheduled everything, and that helped them keep a lot of guys that did not end up in the portal. So let's get to it. He is the head coach of Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. It's Mike Desormeaux on Locked On Sun Belt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. We continue our, post-spring tour of the Sun Belt. We get the head coach of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, Mike Desormeaux, heading into his third season at the helm of the Cajuns. Gone to 2 bowl games, lost both bowl games, although his first win as a Cajun was a bowl game. So let's get to it, Coach. I think I asked you this, and I'm not sure if I asked it right in a press conference, because it is a process, and I understand that. But were there certain goals that you wanted to reach in spring ball, and what were those goals, and did you reach them?
Well, I think I think everyone goes in the spring and there are certain things that they want to improve. And certainly, we're no different. We needed to improve on ball security on offense. That was one of the things that last year really, we put too many balls on the ground. It kind of, truthfully haunted us. On the defensive side of the things, we wanted to be better against the run. Felt like last year we gave up too much in the run game, and we couldn't get into third down situations defensively that I think were advantageous for us with the pass rushers we have. And then for us, red zone scoring offensively is something that, for 2 years in a row, we've studied really hard because I don't feel like we've been good enough there. I think we did a much better job. We protected the football really well this spring. Which is something that you have to do. You can't give away possessions. So we did a much better job of that. Problem with spring, all right, is that there's like a flip side to everything. You didn't do a good enough job getting takeaways on defense, so you're kind of, right. You're kind of 50-50 on whether that's a good thing or not. But offensively, we did a much better job protecting the ball. On defense, I think we improved in our run game defense a little bit. And the fact that I think we created more negative plays in the run game than what we did in the past. But we still got a little bit of work to do there. And then certainly, red zone scoring, we weren't able to focus as much in that area of the field as I typically would with, a new defensive coordinator, new defensive staff. So this summer, that'll be a big deal with our installs in the summer and certainly going into fall camp to continue to work through some of that stuff. So, didn't probably get to do as much of that as I'd like to, but, overall, I'm really pleased with where we came out of spring at. This is the first time since I've been the head coach that we actually have some experience back on both sides of the ball. And that's something that, it's hard to replace experience and shoot. To be honest with you, the hardest thing in the world right now in Group of 5 football is to keep an experienced team. So we've been fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, you really did that. I don't know. I maybe looked into it too much because some teams, they have spring ball like in February so everyone's still in football shape and they get, if there are injuries, more time to recover. the Cajuns, went late, like the end of April was the spring game. So there's only a few days to get in the portal. Was that a concerted effort, or is that just the way the schedule ended up to where, they only had a couple of days? And, did anybody, maybe one or two players went into the portal after spring. And the Cajuns really, there were a couple of key losses, but that was way, that was well after after the season and well before spring ball. Gant, the linebacker, and Zion Chris left, but you knew that well in advance. You really didn't lose anybody that was going to be a major part of the team this year. Was that a concerted effort to go late? And is that something, maybe transfer portal strategy?
Yeah, it was, truthfully. And I kind of, I mentioned it in a press conference. It's disgusting what goes on behind closed doors. Right. And I'm sure on this podcast, you're probably hearing a lot about it. I had some of the guys in the league reach out to me when they saw what I said, and they're like, man, same thing here, and it's the best thing that we can do is keep our kids around their teammates and keep them around us. And when you push spring back, because that's what everybody does, right? You go through spring, and we're the same way. You have a couple spots left, and so you say, all right, well, where can we add players? Well, we do it with players that are in the portal. Some of them, they try to get players to go into the portal so they can get them, which is completely illegal and completely outside of the idea of what the transfer portal was for. So, we moved it back for that reason. We were actually going to finish a week earlier, where we had a week to kind of go through exit meetings. But when we hired Coach Salgado and that process, it just took a little while. Certainly, doing due diligence, that took, to connect with as many people as I felt like we needed to. We had to push spring back a little bit. But yeah, my plan from now on is to push it back. They only give us 14 evaluation days per coach in the spring now anyway. So we've got like 3.5 weeks. So, they basically, our coaches have about 20 something days to get their 14 in. So, we're going to recruit high school kids in the spring anyway. So that's, for us, that's kind of the plan that we went with. And look, the reality is we have put a collective in place, and that's helped. We're trying to grow that thing daily. Our university does a great job. They treat our kids really good. They've got everything that they need here to be successful. So we're doing everything we can to, to show them that they can do everything they want to do here. And certainly helps whenever, Nathan Thomas gets drafted, and you get another one, every year. So, all those things, I think it all kind of plays into it. I think our coaches did a phenomenal job with their players, building relationships and showing them that there's a future for them here. I think it all plays a role in this thing, to be honest with you.
Let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll hear from Mike Desormeaux. He's been a little bit unlucky in terms of injuries the last few years, while his predecessors had incredible luck with being healthy. And he also talks about breaking in a new defensive coordinator. The Cajuns may be more aggressive and use their defensive skill positions, if you will, to get after the quarterback. We'll do that right after I tell you about Yahoo Finance. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data that you need in one place. They're the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts to a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand that every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com, That's yahoofinance.com. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's continue our conversation with the head coach of Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, Mike Desormeaux. A little bit unlucky with the injuries over the last couple of years compared to what his predecessors went through. And how do they go about breaking in a new defensive coordinator? He's the head coach of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. He's Mike Desormeaux on Lockdown Sunbelt. Talking to Mike Desormeaux, head coach of Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so a lot to unpack there. I do want to back it up a little bit because I'm much more of a reasons guy than excuses guys. I know coaches, they all think it's excuses. I happen to think it's reasons. So, I first came here, the Cajuns were in the middle of 4 straight New Orleans Bowls. And, Mark Hudspeth tells me, the reason why we're so good is because we didn't have an offensive lineman hurt for 2 seasons, right? And then Napier comes in and some guy named Levi Lewis starts 3 years in a row, doesn't miss a start, okay? Yeah. You, on the other hand, you had 3 starting quarterbacks last season, and the year before you started 2 and played 3. So the key is, obviously, and this is not a super genius call by any means, but how do we keep the team healthier to have the kind of success that you're hoping for?
Dave, part of it, I'd be lying if I acted like we had the magic formula for that.
Right, right.
But there is some science behind it, and I think, with our strength staff and myself, we do more, I guess, tinkering with the data and kind of looking at different ways to be able to keep our guys healthy and tiering things and kind of adjusting rest times and doing things to help them. Because, the reality of it is that, these guys are not robots, that they've got to rest, they have to recover. And so we're constantly adjusting and monitoring and tweaking ways that we can, kind of help with that recovery time. Some of these things, it comes down to luck, there's some of it that there's not much you can avoid. But no, it does make a difference. So you talked about HUD. I remember I got here right at the back end of that run that they had. And he told me that one day that for 4 years they had the same starting 5 every game, not the same 5, for 4 years, but whoever started that year. And so I was telling one of the guys on our staff this year that, and he's like, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "No." I said, "For 4 years, like that was the deal." And then, Levi, it was the craziest thing. Especially the way he ran the ball, and he was all over the place. So hopefully we got a little bit of that bad luck out from behind us. Right. But at the end of the day, you have to find ways to get it done. And for us last year, I think there were a lot of positives. I think even having 3 starting quarterbacks, we were able to improve significantly on offense from the year before, which we needed to. We've got an experienced group coming back, and we've got to find a way to go get a touchdown better per game this year. If you start getting close to 38, 40 points a game, that's playing good offensive football. And then it takes a little bit of pressure off the defense where, if they don't have a great night, you're still in good shape. So we gotta have the same urgency on offense this year we did to get better last year. We were not happy, not pleased with, the offense that we were and the team that we were in 22. And the kids worked really hard. Staff worked really hard to improve, made a lot of improvements. That urgency has to be the same this year going forward, though, too. And at the end of the day, you're going to have a couple injuries, unfortunately. You hope it's nothing bad. But you got to have a way to get it done. It's a results-driven industry, and people – right. They really don't. People don't really want to hear, but it's just that's not the way it works in this business. And I knew that when I got into it.
Sure. Yeah, I think Nick Saban, they had that science that you're talking about over at Bama for so long, and it's those soft tissue injuries that you can prevent, right? The freak injuries that the quarterbacks had last year, right? If Zion Chris falls a different way, he doesn't break a leg, right? Ben Woldridge, as a super genius who did also break his foot. Well, in my case, because I missed a sidewalk, you break that little pinky toe, and that's a freak injury because the ankle rolled. And instead of a minor sprained ankle, he's been out. which is going to be closed for 10 months. So those are freak injuries. And like you said, you got to be able to roll with it. He's Mike Desormeaux, the head coach of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, let's talk about that defensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. How long does it take for everyone to get on the same page? Players, coaches, you and him. How long does that take? I presume that's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah, no, I mean, it certainly will. The thing that I liked about him is, naturally the reason I hired him is, we saw eye to eye and felt the same way about the way defense should be played. Just kind of the idea of being able to be multiple, but still allowing our kids to play fast and not overloading them. Sometimes I think defense is a little bit more about players, not plays. You have good players, especially on defense, man. You got to cut them loose and let them go play. And the only way you do that is if they know what they're doing and they're really, really dialed into it. So, that part of it, he and I think was pretty easy. As we go through installs, we would, it's easy to work back and forth, hey, we're going to do this, coming up this week. And, we watch spring tape together as a staff. So, there was even times where he's like, hey, can y'all run this? And can y'all put this in? That would help us. So, we tried to do all that stuff for them. The college game is a little bit different than the NFL, for a lot of reasons. I think having Coach Stoker and Coach Barlow and Coach Thomas and Mike G and all those guys on defense that have been in college football for a while, they were able to kind of help him with that a little bit. And certainly, Coach Salgado is an incredibly intelligent person. Did not take him very long, to kind of figure out some of those answers. So, I think getting everyone on the same page is going to take a little while, but you saw after about the second week, you saw it really click with our kids. And I got to tell you, doing exit meetings. So I do exit meetings with every player on the team at the end of spring, and offensively and defensively, to hear them talk about how excited they are about our defense right now and the way they've played this spring. It's pretty fun. I mean, Jim is incredibly demanding, which is what I told our coaches. That was the number one thing we had to do as coaches, because we have a chance to be a really good team. So we got to demand it. He is very demanding. He's persistent about what he wants. He's incredibly detailed, and he's got a philosophy in what he wants to be. He came in here, he goes, these are the coverages that we're installing. This is day one. Like, this is the first thing we're going to do. This is day two. Like, there was no, well, we can, he knows what he believes in. And I think that's kind of what we were looking for a little bit, last year was like, kind of what is our identity on defense? Who are we? It's 3rd and 12 games on the line, or 4th and 12 games on the line. You got to have it. Who are you? It's 4th and 1 games on the line. Who are you? And, I think Jim's got a really good feel for who he wants to be. And I think he's done a good job taking his chess pieces and kind of putting them into place with this team.
All right, so take me behind the scenes a little bit. So obviously, whatever the scheme is going to be a little bit new, or, certainly some new language with that. Right. So what do the kids do to prepare for that before you're on the field? Or else is it just, it is football 101, day one of the install. And I guess patience would be the word, because we are teaching something brand new. And again, just like offense, there's only so many plays you can call. And It's just the idea of getting the language, everybody understanding that.
So in an ideal world, you have your DC in place, when you get off the road from January recruiting, because in the off season, we do get some football time with our players. But you get, I think it's 2 hours a week or whatever it is that time of year. So we have it kind of scheduled out. So ideally you get to actually start installing and showing cut ups and things like that of kind of what you're going to do. Jim didn't get hired until March. He didn't get here until March. So what we did is whenever he got here, we had 2 weeks. Is kind of what I told him, and that was kind of part of the interview process. Like, all right, what's your main objectives for these first 2 weeks? Because that's about what we got before we got to get out there on the field. So he worked really hard with the staff to get the staff on the same page. With our defensive players, before we had Coach Salgado in place, in February, we just did some very generic football 101 type things. Like we taught them offensive terminology. We kind of taught them different concepts and things like that on the offensive side of the ball that aren't going to change, where we can communicate at a high level. Once Coach Salgado got here, we started with our 2 hours a week, and, started with day one, kind of what we were going to do. And, a lot of it came down to, a lot of it was in walkthrough settings. We did these different circuits and things like that were going to be an important part of practice for him. So kind of had 2 weeks, which I say 2 weeks, really had like 4 days to kind of do that. And then you were on the grass, and, our kids are really, it's important to them. So, they were asking questions. They were asking for video. They were trying to get all their stuff set up where they could get in here and try to learn it. But they were eager and excited to do it. And, I think Jim is really good, and he's done a great job here. But I told the kids this on day one: doesn't matter who you hire, how great they are, you're the only ones that can make it work. And our kids bought into it, and they've done a good job this spring. A lot of progress in 15 days, particularly on defense. But certainly, a long way to go, be where you want to be.
So that makes sense by why you said there was such a big improvement in week 2, because it took them a week to figure out what was going on.
Yep.
And once they did, they're off to the races, because the guys who've come in, the players that we saw, post-practice, especially the guys who were getting off after the quarterback, they're all licking their chops saying, we're going to have more sack numbers this year. I may not be dropping back in coverage as often as we have in the past.
Well, again, it's players, not plays. When you got guys that I think in this league, we have a few guys that really are a problem, as pass rushers. And it showed at times. Well, you got to let them do what they do best. You don't want to do things. So, those are things that we've talked about, is making sure we got the right guys in the right places. And yeah, like I said, these exit interviews, offensive players, defensive players, doesn't matter. They're all excited about the progress of our defense. And in general, they're excited about this team. So that's what really matters, man. When the kids believe, you got a chance, and right now they're really high on it. So, you got to carry that momentum into the summer.
Let's take one more timeout. We'll come back and wrap up our conversation with head coach Mike Desormeaux. They did pick up one key piece of the puzzle out of the transfer portal, and he knows it's time to win as he's heading into year 3. And then a great story about Chandler Fields, his quarterback, getting engaged. We'll do that when we come back, and after I tell you about FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's wrap up things with Mike Desormeaux, head coach of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. Talks about the one position that he did go out and get in the portal. Talks about it's time to win. Heading into year 3, he knows the score, so to speak, and a great story on how he found out about his quarterback, Chandler Fields, getting engaged. It is Mike Desormeaux, the head coach of Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, on Locked On Sunbelt. He's Mike Desormeaux, Locked On Sunbelt. He's the head coach of the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. A few more minutes. All right, so one person that you needed to get out of the transfer portal, believe is out of Southern Illinois, but another Aussie kicker. Cajuns seem to have a pipeline to down under. Tell us about the new Cajuns punter.
Yeah, so, really the only 2 additions that we had in spring, guys that weren't, January signees, were Kyron Mims, defensive tackle, from Ball State. He's a Louisiana kid, big nose, shade type player, which is a good get for us. Some makes us a little bit unique. And Nathan. So, we knew that we needed to get a punter. Brock was someone that, we were going to let go through the spring, kind of like we did with Thomas Leo. He'd been here, and it's like, look, fair is fair. If you're good enough and you can, play winning ball for us, and then you deserve to be on scholarship. And Brock had a chance to compete, just wasn't consistent enough. So we knew we were probably going to have to get a punter. And Nathan was in the transfer portal. We did kind of look in the Australian world a little bit. So we kind of dabbled into that a little bit. There were just some things that kind of didn't work out directly. But he was in the portal. He's played really good. He fits what we want to do. He's really accurate. He's got a really accurate pooch punch. He can do all kind of stuff with the ball. These guys, they like magicians with this thing, like Reese was. He's not as much of a rugby guy as Reese was. He's more of a directional punter, which is kind of what we've evolved into. Does rugby, can do it. It's a tool that he's got. More important than anything, when this guy came down here on his visit, he was awesome. He's all about ball. He was a great fit with our guys. We sat in the office, for his exit meeting, and I talked to him about what I expect from our specialists. I want them to be a part of our team. They're not just doing their own thing every day. And he was like, that's what I'm looking for. Is I just, I want to be a part of it. He was excited to move to this part of the country. He'd been freezing his tail off up there in Illinois. So I think that helped. He came down here. The weather was beautiful. It was like, 80 degrees and wasn't a cloud in the sky. So, we got a little help there. But yeah, those two guys were additions that we didn't have here for spring ball. But certainly guys that I think will be impact players for us in the fall.
All right. Again, a couple more questions for Mike Desormeaux. Really interesting. You've been upfront about this. Southern Miss, the Fighting Will Halls have been upfront about this. It is time to win. He's heading into year 4. You're heading into year 3. You have told us that, obviously year 1 was an issue with a lot of coaches and players leaving, whether they went to Florida or not. So there was high turnover. But you've made no secret about it. It is time to win this year. You have an experienced quarterback room. We'll see if Ben is healthy, but right now Chandler Fields, you're happy with him. What are your expectations heading into year 3?
Yeah, it's time for us to compete for a conference championship again. Look, there were no illusions about what was expected when I took this job from everyone, from our fan base, from myself. No one expects it more than me. I knew that there were challenges that a lot of people probably didn't foresee, with the way things happened. But I said it from the beginning, we weren't trying to build this for a quick fix. I wanted to build something where you can build it to last. And I knew that last year, we had a real chance. And I told you guys that early in the year, if we could mature and grow up and handle some things. And we had some bright moments, but didn't handle some things very well. And I think that bit us in the butt a little bit. Certainly there's things we could have done better as coach and staff too on the back stretch that have been addressed. This year, we've got a lot of experience back. We've got the pieces in place. We've got kids that have been really close. The last 2 years, we've been right on the cusp of it. The record doesn't say that in the end, and that's all that matters. But we know how close we've been. So, for us, that's what our goal is. I believe we have the team to do that. We've been right on the doorstep with everybody we've played the last 2 years. It's time to go do it. And, truthfully, it's kind of what we built it for, was for year 3. We didn't take 40 guys out of the portal in the first year when we could have. We tried to build it with high school kids. We tried to keep our kids here and keep developing them. Fortunately, we were able to do that with most of them. So, this team, they believe in each other. They believe in us and the way that we wanted to do it. And, I'm fired up about it because, this is what you work really hard for. It's not always an immediate payoff. Sometimes it's down the road. And I don't know, to have a group of kids that have stayed the course and stuck it out. I think that's pretty rare today. And I'm excited for them. More than anything, I want to prove these guys right, for staying here and doing it this way. And like I said from the beginning, I don't think you have to sell out, and I don't think you have to live in the world where you're just completely transactional. I still think you can do it a certain type of way, and that's what we're trying to prove.
All right, you talked about the team maturing. One guy apparently mature enough to add a wife to his life. Your starting quarterback, as of right now, Chandler Fields, decided to get engaged over last week. Did he ask you about that? Did he tell you about it? Did he ask for any advice? What do you think about your starting quarterback getting down on a knee and proposing?
Well, number one, I can't pass judgment. Lindsay and I got engaged before my senior year too. So
there you go.
Yeah. So I can't pass any judgment there. It's fun. Okay. The story's funny. I got to tell you really quick.
Please do.
We're in the quarterback room and we're messing with Ben Wooldridge about being old.
Sure.
And so Ben's like, I'm not as old as Chandler is. I was like, yeah, but you act like you're 40, you know what I mean? So we start laughing and I'm like, well, one thing I know for sure, Ben, is that you're not about to get married like Chandler is. So I look at him, I was like, when are you asking her to marry you? Because I know like they've been dating a long time, like it's like a really good thing, you know? And so I said it kind of laughing and he goes, actually next Sunday. And I was like, wait, a what? He was like, yeah. He goes, he's kind of explaining it to me, where they're going to go and kind of what they're going to do. And so he kind of tells us the story, goes into it. He didn't ask for any advice. I think he had it planned out pretty good. And obviously it went well, she said, yeah. So, I mean, you can't ask for a different result than that. If she said, yeah, then that's about as good as you can do.
Yes, right. There's no, there's no yeah, but with that one, it's kind of binary. It's either yes or no. So, best of luck to Chandler and his fiancee Victoria. It's tremendous news. But now here's the thing. Right now, maybe in this case, that's one less thing to worry about because you know where he's going to be. Either school, football, or with her.
Yeah. Well, my advice to all of them is when you have a good one, don't screw it up. So, right. that's my advice to all of them. And he's got a good one. So that's kind of the fun thing about that group, though. Really don't have to worry about them a whole lot. They're pretty focused on what's important. And I appreciate that about them.
He's Mike Desormeaux, head coach of Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. Locked on Sunbelt, your team every day. Really appreciate it, Coach. Enjoy what little off time you get. And I guess the next time we'll see each other is Sunbelt Media Days in a couple of months. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you.